This is going to be unlike any other hip mobility routine you've seen on YouTube, and I'll explain a few reasons why. My approach is uniquely centered around the idea of improving mobility of joints and also calming down the nervous system. I don't like to initially force people into positions they're not comfortable with, because I would rather show the body that, hey, we've opened up some space for more range of motion. So this is potentially a better way, and this position is not threatening to you. You're not stressed being in this position. So a lot of the initial exercises might seem pretty basic, or that there's not a lot of range of motion. And the reason why is because in order to restore mobility to joints and calm the nervous system down, we don't want to activate a fight or flight state. We also don't need nearly as much range of motion as a lot of people think to get improvements in how we feel and the mobility of our joints. All you're going to need for this is a foam roller, a pillow, and also a wall later on. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is take that pillow and fold it in half and wedge it as deep as it can go between your upper thigh and also your stomach. And then we're going to rest our elbows on the ground like this. And all you're gonna do is keep your head relaxed, and you're gonna push through the ground a little bit with your elbows and your forearms. That's going to push your upper back towards the ceiling a little bit. And you're gonna breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. At the end of that exhale, silent inhale. So I should not hear you inhale, but I should hear you exhale very softly. If you paid attention to how soft that exhale was, that's going to get me in a position where I'm going to be able to then inhale fully and expand my back and decompress the muscles in my back. So watch what happens as I inhale. That is decompressing those low back muscles. If you're uncomfortable in this position, what you could do is you could just rock your hips back on a foam roller, wedge it right here, and then you can just reach overhead a little bit like this, keeping your head nice and relaxed, and do the same exact thing. Now the next thing we're gonna do is little half rolls. So we're gonna get this foam roller in a position where it is between our shins and our knees, and the feet are also in this position right here. Now we have the pillow underneath our head, and it's important that as we go through these rolls, you don't feel any discomfort in your hips whatsoever. So the starting position is 90 degrees of bend at both your hips and your knees, but if you feel any discomfort, you can go a little bit lower, and that's totally okay. So we're gonna be right here, and we're gonna have a straight line from this top shoulder to this hip right here. Now all we're going to do is exhale through our mouth and gently roll the top knee forward, stopping once we feel like our low back is about to move. So if I go too far, my low back is gonna arch and my ribs are gonna flare. So we don't want that to happen. We just want to stay relaxed and go maybe just a couple of inches past that bottom knee right there. And then inhale through our nose and roll back very slowly until this top knee gets behind the bottom knee. So from a downstream perspective, it looks like this. We're going to gently roll forward just a couple of inches past, and that's when I feel like my low back will begin to want to move, and then I'm gonna roll back nice and slow. I'm not going fast, I'm going extremely slow and relaxed. This will help us slowly work our hips into more internal rotation and getting the femur slide back in the hip socket on this downside leg right here while improving external rotation on this top leg. Do each side on this about 20 rolls per side. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that foam roller and put it underneath our pelvis. And then we're going to relax back, supporting our head on the pillow. And then we're going to put one leg on the ground comfortably, and we're going to pull the other leg back. We never want to feel a pinch in this hip, so if you need to go in less hip flexion, that's okay. So pull the leg back until you feel like you might feel a little pinch, but stop before that point. And then you're just gonna sit here and push through the ground of this foot right here. You're going to feel a stretch on your hip flexor right here, maybe a little bit of glute activate on this leg. And you're gonna hold that for about 30 seconds. If you ever feel like your low back is going to activate or you feel it in any way whatsoever, then you need to adjust this. You can adjust it by rolling it further down on your pelvis right there. And that will allow you to keep your low back in a more relaxed state. For this one, we're going to need a wall. So what you're gonna do is get that pillow and then fold it in half. So that way you can put it underneath your lowest ribs and your hip on the downside can still stay flat on the ground. Support your head like you're taking a nap. Now get the toe of this up leg in line with your hip and on the wall right there. And get it in a position to where you can reach it away from you and feel a nice stretch of your hip flexor right here. You should feel a nice stretch right there, maybe a little bit of glute on this top side leg right here, and then just hold that. Make sure your hips stay square ahead. They're not rolled back and they're not rolled forward too much, right there. Toes resting on the wall, reach, and then breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, trying to stay as relaxed as you can. Now, some people may need to play with the amount of hip extension they're in. Never go so far back on the wall where you feel like your low back is gonna arch and your ribs flare. If that happens, you are not gonna get anything out of this. You may need to bring the leg a little bit more forward to be able to do this and still maintain that posterior pelvic tilt. If you need to add some support for this leg, keeping the toe on the wall, that's totally fine. And that can help you feel more comfortable in this position. Another progression could be reaching overhead like that, just making sure that your ribs aren't flaring excessively, you're still keeping them down with the posterior tilt. Hold this position for about 8 slow breath cycles on each side. Now for this next one, we're gonna get on the wall. So I have this foam roller in between my knees, and it needs to be in a position where my feet are perfectly in line with both my knees and my hips. I can use the pillow if I'm more comfortable here. If not, you can just go flat on the ground. It's cool with me either way, whatever's more comfortable for you. Now, you're going to initiate this by feeling the inner arches of your feet on the wall and simply just dragging down. And the bottom of your tailbone is going to lift off of the ground, and you're going to keep the rest of your pelvis flat on the ground. This will engage your hamstrings, the back of your thighs, about maybe a 2 or 3 out of 10, not much at all. And you're just gonna breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just like we've been doing on all the other exercises here. Now, some of you will struggle to find your hamstrings on this exercise, and if that's the case, set up a little shelf or use a chair, and then just simply drag down, and now you should find them. Again, just the tailbone lifts off of the ground, low back is flat, it's not much at all. It's not this, we're just gently lifting like this and breathing in through our nose, out through our mouth. If you want to add something to this to get more opening of your back, you can add a little reach just like this with your palms facing you, and you should feel more expansion in your back when you inhale. Stay in this position with your hamstrings on for about 8 slow breaths. If you feel like your glutes want to kick on, then give this foam roller a tiny squeeze, about 3 out of 10, and then try to initiate it again, and that should help you keep your glutes off because we're trying to target the hamstrings here. Okay, the last one is a standing exercise. You're gonna take that foam roller, put it in between your knees. If this is too long and awkward, you could just get a little ball or a yoga block and put it in between your knees. But regardless, your knees need to stay in line with your toes, hip width apart, and your toes are straight ahead. So you wanna be far enough away from the wall to where you can get about 90% of your arm locked out, but about 10% give. Feel the weight in those inner arches. Keep your head neutral, looking straight ahead the entire time in between your hands, and then get a little protraction and reach through the wall. So you see how my ribs are coming back and I'm kind of reaching my arms away from me? Maintain this position as you exhale and walk your hands down the wall. Don't slide, but gently walk. And get a little bit down like here, and then inhale through your nose. Exhale and go a little bit lower, and you're going to get to the point where you feel like you are at your end range. At any lower, you're going to start to round your low back or arch your back. That's the point at which you want to stop. So this is as far as I can go. I'm just going to hold this position for about 2 to 3 breaths. Again, keeping my gaze in between my thumbs right here. And I'm also making sure I'm maintaining that slight push through the wall with my weight in those arches. Do this squat about 5 to 6 times. So about 2 to 3 breaths down, 2 breaths hold at the bottom, and then just come back up and reset. Do that 5 times. If you want to see how these exercises are progressed and also implemented within a comprehensive program that addresses the needs of many common movement limitations and issues within the body, check out my beginner body restoration program. I'll link that down below. So there you have it. After you get these exercises down and you know how to do them well, this shouldn't take you more than about 5 minutes or a little bit over that. For best results, do it every day, twice a day in the morning and at night is even better.